For years, the world thought it knew everything worth knowing about Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban. The addiction, the rehab, the red carpet kisses, the gentle, almost boring stability that made gossip magazines roll their eyes and move on. If other couples were gasoline and matches, Nicole and Keith looked like a candle behind glass, steady, contained, safe. And then one night, a sound file leaked. 17 minutes and 22 seconds of raw, unedited late-night audio that should never have left the walls of their Nashville home. The file had no intro, no explanation, no context, just a timestamp and a simple label. Kitchen, 2:13 a.m. By the time the world woke up, those 17 minutes had already been replayed millions of times because they contained what nobody ever thought they'd hear. Nicole Kidman's voice cracking on the words, "I don't trust you anymore," and Keith Urban's broken reply, "Then why are you still here?" People said it was the sound of a marriage collapsing. They were wrong. It was the sound of something much stranger, a carefully hidden truth being dragged into the light. It took exactly 12 hours from the leak for the first talk show to invite Keith Urban to tell his side of the story. It took him less than a second to say yes. He walked onto that stage with tired eyes, unshaven jaw, and the kind of emptiness in his expression that no stylist could fix. The host tried to keep it light, to pretend this was just another promo interview. It wasn't. The audience didn't come for songs. They came for blood. "So," the host began, clearing his throat, "I think we all have the same question tonight." That audio, the fight, the words, "I don't trust you anymore. Your marriage is okay?" Keith stared at him like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. "I'll answer that," he said slowly. "But to do that, I need to tell you what happened before the record button was ever pressed." The host blinked. "You mean there's more?" Keith let out a hollow laugh. "There's always more," he said, "especially in a house like ours." He looked straight into the camera as if speaking to someone far away. "Nicole, if you're watching, I'm not doing this to hurt you." He paused. "I'm doing this because this is the only way I know how to stop lying." The studio air tightened, like someone had turned off the oxygen. He started from the beginning. Not the beginning of their relationship, not the fairy tale first meeting, not the wedding, not his rehab. Those stories were polished, rehearsed, safe. He started with the one night he had never spoken about publicly. The night Nicole told him she might leave him. Not for someone else, for herself. They were in their bedroom. No cameras, no kids, no witnesses. Just the two of them. And the kind of silence that only exists between people who know each other too well. Nicole sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on her knees, head in her hands. Still in her makeup from an award show, dress unzipped halfway down her back, a woman stuck between her public and private selves, unable to fully commit to either. He asked her what was wrong. She said, "Nothing." He didn't believe her. "Nikki, what's going on?" She had lifted her head and looked at him then, really looked at him, with eyes that were too bright, too sharp, too awake.
She said, "I'm tired of being watched." He frowned. "You mean the press? The photographers?" She meant by you.
And I don't know how to exist under that kind of love. He hadn't known what to do with that. "How do you want me to love you then?" he asked. She stared at him for a long moment, then said something he never forgot. Less. One word, softly spoken, devastating. "You love me too much," she said. "Too intensely, too constantly. I can't breathe in it." He could have dismissed it, chalked it up to exhaustion, to post-show anxiety, to the emotional hangover of being celebrated by strangers for hours. But something about the way she folded into herself that night, like a paper figure collapsing along old creases, told him this wasn't new. This was old, ancient, practiced. "Sometimes," she said quietly, "I feel like you're waiting for me to fail so you can save me, and I don't want to be saved." That was the night he made a decision that would come back to haunt them both. He decided to ease back, just a little. Fewer questions, less hovering, less checking in, less asking, "Are you okay?" every time her smile looked fragile round the edges. He mistook her plea for space as a plea for silence. It wasn't. Weeks passed, then months. Nicole filmed, Keith toured. They crossed paths in hotels, in kitchens, in cars on the way to events. They kissed, laughed, hosted dinners, took their daughters to school. From the outside, nothing was wrong. From the inside, something was rotting. It showed up in the strangest place first, Keith's music. He began writing songs that never quite resolved, verses with no chorus, bridges that led nowhere, melodies that spiraled without ever landing. His producer told him it sounded interesting and experimental. Keith knew it sounded like a man who had swallowed too many things he meant to say. The real rupture came on a Tuesday. No anniversary, no birthday, no holiday, just a Tuesday. Nicole had just wrapped a brutal day on set. Keith was home between tour dates.
It should have been simple. Dinner, a movie, an early night. Instead, it turned into the conversation that would eventually explode out of their kitchen and into every phone on the planet. Nicole was quiet all evening. Not the delicate, haunted quiet Keith recognized from her most demanding roles. A different quiet. A flat, distant, unreachable quiet. He tried to ignore it. He failed. "Something's wrong," he said, setting down his fork. "You're somewhere else." She didn't look up. "Nicole?" Nothing. He swallowed. "Talk to me." She finally raised her eyes, and what he saw there made his stomach drop. Resignation. Does it ever get exhausting, loving someone who doesn't love you back the way you want? He felt like someone had pulled the floor from under him. "What are you talking about?" he demanded. "You," she said simply. "Me." He shook his head. "You love me." "Yes," she said, "but not the way you need to be loved." He laughed once, incredulously. "You don't get to tell me how I need to be loved." "No," she agreed, "but I can tell you what I see." Her shoulders lifted and dropped in a tiny shrug. "I see a man who built his life around the idea that love should heal him, save him, make everything that came before make sense. And I see a woman," she pointed to herself, "who keeps failing at being that miracle." He stood up, heart pounding. "This is ridiculous. You are that miracle." She flinched. "You see?" she whispered. That's exactly the problem. He spread his hands. What do you want me to say? She said, I want you to stop putting me on the altar. Stop turning me into the answer to every question you never knew how to ask yourself. He stared at her. There are parts of you, she continued softly, you only touch through me. Parts you're too afraid to face alone.
So you pour it all into this story, this idea of us, and then you call it love. He shook his head, anger flaring to protect the fragile core she was poking at. That's not fair, isn't it? She asked. I went to hell and back for us, he shot back. I got clean. I rebuilt everything. I know, she said, and I will be grateful for the rest of my life. But tell me honestly, Keith, if you weren't married to me, do you believe you'd still be that man? He didn't answer. Exactly, she said. The silence stretched, heavy. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. You want to leave? It wasn't a question. Nicole stared at him, eyes glossy but unreadable. I want to know who I am without you. And I don't know how to ask for that without breaking your heart. He felt something cold settle in his chest. So break it, he said. The words surprised even him. Her lips parted. Keith? Break it, he repeated. If that's what you need, say the thing you came here to say. She looked at him then like he was both stranger and home. I don't trust you, she whispered. The world would later hear that sentence as an accusation. In that kitchen, it was something else, a confession. He stared at her, stunned. You don't trust me? He repeated slowly. After everything? I don't trust that you'll still love me, she corrected, her voice shaking. If I stop being your reason for being okay. That's when the recording started. Not by choice, not by malice, by accident. One of their daughters had left a voice memo app open on the kitchen counter earlier that day while practicing a school project. Nobody closed it.
Nobody noticed it was still active. The red light blinked quietly as it captured every word. Online, people heard a woman saying, I don't trust you anymore. In reality, she was saying something much worse. I don't trust that you'll stay if I step off the pedestal you put me on. Keith sank into a chair, feeling suddenly very old. You think I only love you because you saved me? He asked. Yes, she whispered. You think if you stop playing that role, I'll, what, relapse? Leave? Replace you with another savior? She didn't answer. He exhaled a bitter laugh. You know what's funny? I've spent the last 5 years trying to love you like a person, and you still think I love you like a lifeline. She winced. The argument spiraled from there. People heard fragments in the leaked audio. You don't see me. You don't let me be weak. You make everything about your past. You make everything about your pain. What they didn't hear, because the file cut off before it, was the sentence that changed everything. Nicole, voice shaking, whispered, I don't know how to love a man who doesn't know how to live without me. Keith, raw and exposed, replied, and I don't know how to stop. The next morning, he woke up to 50 missed calls. The audio had leaked overnight. Nobody knew how. A cloud backup, a hacked account, someone who found a file and sold it. It didn't matter. The internet just knew one thing. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban were not perfect. They were fractured. And everybody wanted to see where the cracks led. Producers called, publicists panicked, lawyers drafted statements full of phrases like taken out of context and private matter and respect their privacy. Keith stared at his phone as it buzzed itself across the table. He felt strangely calm. Nicole, on the other hand, looked like a ghost. She sat at the kitchen island, the same place their words turned into content, staring at nothing. "They're going to dissect every second," she whispered. Every pause, every crack in my voice. "I know," he said quietly. "They're going to decide what kind of wife I am, what kind of woman." He swallowed. "They'll decide what kind of husband I am, too." She shook her head. "They'll side with you," she said. "You sound hurt. I sound cruel." He didn't argue, because he knew she was right. "What do we do?" she asked. He thought about the last 17 years, the rumors, the interviews, the polished narratives, the questions about how they made it work, the articles calling their marriage a miracle in an industry of disasters. He thought about the clip of her saying, "I don't trust you anymore," being replayed on loop for the rest of the week. He thought about the young version of himself, drunk in a hotel room, praying for a life that made sense. Then he said the one thing nobody expected. "We tell the truth," he replied. She stared at him like he'd suggested they jump off a cliff. "On television?" she said. "Everywhere," he said. "You're insane." "Probably," he agreed. "But I'm also done pretending we're something we're not." He reached for her hand. "You think I only love you because you saved me," he said. "I think you're only staying because you're afraid of what happens to me if you leave. We're both wrong, and we're both trapped in a story that doesn't fit us anymore." Her fingers trembled in his. "So, what are you saying?" she whispered. "I'm saying, let's burn the story and see what's left." Which is how he ended up on that stage, under 2 bright lights, staring down a camera, speaking directly into the bloodstream of the internet. He didn't sugarcoat it. He told them about the kitchen, the sentence, the mistrust. He told them about the way he had secretly believed for years that his worth as a man was tied to being the one she chose after the pain, the savior, the stable one, the proof that she could finally have something healthy. He told them about the quiet resentment that had grown inside him, the part that whispered, "If I hadn't been broken, would she have picked me?" He told them about the flip side of that myth, her belief that if he ever fully healed, he might not need her anymore. "We weren't in a love story," he said. "We were in a hostage situation, held hostage by who we thought we were to each other." The host tried to intervene. "Keith, don't you think—" "No," he said sharply. "I've done safe on talk shows for 20 years. I'm done." He looked back into the camera. I want the world to know the truth, he said. We are not goals. We are not a miracle. We are two traumatized people who built a very beautiful house on unstable ground. He paused, eyes bright. And I love her, he added. Not because she saved me, not because she stayed, not because she's Nicole Kidman. I love her because when she's not performing, when she's messy and scared and cruel and kind and everything in between, she's the only person who has ever made me feel completely seen. Back home, Nicole watched from their living room, alone. When he said those words, something inside her snapped. Not in anger, in recognition. Because for the first time, he wasn't selling a story. He was dismantling one. The host asked the question everyone was thinking. Are you two breaking up? Keith smiled sadly. Maybe, maybe not. We haven't decided yet. The audience gasped. He shrugged. That's the truth. Not very cinematic, I know, but real. The host frowned slightly. What does Nicole think of you doing this? Keith looked at the camera like it was a person. I think she'll hate me for it, he said softly.
At least at first, he swallowed. But I also think, somewhere deep down, she will be relieved that the performance is over. The interview ended. Social media detonated. Nicole deserves better. Keith is emotionally manipulative. She's cold. He's weak. She's traumatized him. He weaponized his vulnerability. Strangers picked teams in a war neither of them had asked for. The next morning, Nicole came home. She walked into the kitchen, the same island, the same cold tile that had quietly witnessed the unraveling of their illusions, and set her phone down. He turned to look at her. Her eyes were red. You didn't tell them everything, she said. He nodded. I know. You protected me, she added. He shook his head. I told enough, he said. The rest is ours. She exhaled shakily. I was furious, watching you, hearing you say things we never even fully said to each other. I wanted to smash the TV. Then why didn't you? He asked. She looked at him with a broken, dangerous softness. Because I was jealous, she whispered. Of who? She said. Of them, the audience, the world, the people who got to hear you say out loud what I've been too afraid to ask you for. He stepped closer. And what's that? He asked. She held his gaze, the air between them buzzing with something raw. Love me when I disappoint you, she said. Not in spite of it, not around it, through it. He swallowed hard. I already do, he said. She shook her head. You love me when I fracture gracefully, when my vulnerability fits your narrative, when it makes you feel needed. But can you love me when I hurt you? When I walk away? When I say the wrong thing in the wrong kitchen at the wrong time? He felt the words like a knife. This is your version of the story, he said carefully. What's mine? She stepped closer. Yours, she said, is that you're not nearly as broken as you pretend to be. Not anymore. And that scares you.
Because if you admit you're okay, you have to admit that I'm not your cure. I'm just a person. They stared at each other. I don't know how to be just a person in your life, she whispered. He reached up and touched her face with shaking fingers. Then let's learn, he said.
together, or not, but honestly. She laughed once, wet and bitter. You realize this might end with us not being together, she said. Yes. And you're still willing to play it out? He smiled sadly. For the first time, he said, I think I am. She exhaled slowly. Okay, she murmured. Then here's my truth. She stepped back, as if giving herself room to fall. I don't know if I want to stay married to you, she said. The words hung there between them like a verdict. He nodded slowly. Thank you, he said. She blinked, startled. That's it? No begging? No speeches? I've been living in fear of that sentence for 10 years. If you're finally brave enough to say it out loud, the least I can do is be brave enough to hear it. She stared at him. A tear slid down her cheek. You really did change, she whispered. He smiled faintly. So did you, he said. They stood there. Two people who might not make it, who might fall apart, who might walk away from the only thing the world ever envied about them. But for the first time in their entire marriage, they were not acting. Days passed. They talked. They argued. They fell asleep in separate rooms. They woke up holding hands on the same couch without remembering when they had moved. The world waited for a statement. They didn't give one. Finally, weeks later, Nicole quietly agreed to her own interview. No live audience, no glitz, just her, a chair, and a lens. She told her story, not to fix her reputation, to match his honesty. I don't know how this ends, she said at the end, eyes steady. Maybe we stay together, maybe we don't. But I know this, whatever happens next, for the first time, it will be real, not a fairy tale, not a survival story, just the truth. The interviewer asked the question everyone had been screaming at their screens for weeks. Do you still love him? Nicole smiled in that soft, devastating way that made the world fall in love with her decades ago. Yes, she said, but now I'm learning how to love him without erasing myself. And does he love you? She thought about it, about the kitchen, the leaked audio, the talk show, the look in his eyes when she said, I don't know if I want to stay married to you. Yes, she said, but now he's learning how to love me without asking me to save him. Is that enough? The interviewer asked. Nicole looked straight into the camera. It's a beginning, she said, and sometimes that's all you can ask for. The internet didn't know what to do with that. There was no clear villain, no clear saint, no neat ending. Just two people standing in front of the entire world, finally telling the truth, and letting everyone watch as they decided whether love, once stripped of its myths, was still something they wanted to choose. The scandal kept trending. The audio kept circulating. Clips from both interviews kept going viral. But somewhere, beyond the comments and the headlines and the noise, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban sat across from each other at a kitchen table. No microphones, no cameras, no witnesses, and started again. Not as savior and saved, not as icon and steady anchor, as two terrifyingly human people who had finally stopped lying to the world, and more importantly, to themselves.